In November of 1976, a woman rolled onto the set of Hollywood Squares in a small motorized scooter, smiling, waving, ready with a joke. The studio audience roared before she said a single word. To them, she was Totie Fields, loud, warm, fearless, the funniest woman in America. What none of them knew, what she made certain they would never see, was that beneath the laughter, she was already fighting for her life. 7 months earlier, surgeons had taken her left leg. Her heart was failing, and the body she had built her entire career on was quietly turning against her. This is the story of how America's favorite comedienne hid her final battle behind a smile. For years, audiences thought they knew everything about Totie Fields. She told them about her weight. She told them about her diets. She told them about her husband and her daughters. She seemed to hold nothing back. But the most important story of her life was the one she refused to tell from the stage. While she traded jokes with Paul Lynde and Peter Marshall, while she beamed into living rooms across the country, she was enduring a chain of medical catastrophes that would have ended most performers. She chose again and again to give her audience joy instead of her pain. To understand what that cost her, you have to go back to the beginning, to a little girl from Hartford. She was not born Totie Fields. She was born Sophie Feldman on May 7, 1930, in Hartford, Connecticut, into a working-class Jewish family. The name Totie came from childhood. It was simply how she pronounced Sophie when she was very small, and it stuck. She was performing almost before she could read singing on local radio, when she was just 4 years old. By her teens, she was working the resorts of the Borscht Belt and the nightclubs of Boston, learning to command a room, learning to make people laugh before they could laugh at her. Sophie Feldman became Totie Fields, and the girl who turned her own name into a punchline would spend her whole life turning pain into laughter. Her break came at the Copacabana, the legendary New York nightclub where careers were made. Ed Sullivan saw her perform there, and Sullivan, the most powerful man in American television, put her on his Sunday night stage. For a comic in the 1960s, that was everything. Suddenly, the woman from Hartford was in millions of homes at once. She was not a conventional beauty, and she did not pretend to be. She walked out, sized up the room, and went straight at the thing everyone was already thinking her size, and she owned it so completely that the laughter belonged to her, not to anyone laughing at her. It was a kind of fearlessness audiences had rarely seen from a woman. After Sullivan, the doors never stopped opening. She became a regular presence on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, on The Merv Griffin Show, on The Mike Douglas Show. Her comedy was built on her own body and her own life, her weight, her appetite, her marriage, her diets that never lasted past Monday. In 1972, she even wrote a book about it, a joke of a diet guide with a title only she could sell. She was one of the very few women headlining clubs and television in a business run almost entirely by men. She had fought her way to the top of a world that did not expect a woman like her to get there at all. Television's game shows loved her because she was quick and unpredictable and impossible to look away from. She became a familiar face in the squares on Hollywood Squares, trading lines with Paul Lynde and the host Peter Marshall, and she appeared on Tattletales alongside her husband, George Johnston, the man she had married back in 1950 and stayed with for the rest of her life. They had 2 daughters. On The Mike Douglas Show in 1974, a young rock band called Kiss made their first national television appearance, and Totie ever herself joked about the bass player under all that makeup. Gene Simmons never forgot her kindness. The two became friends and wrote to each other until the day she died. It is worth stopping here to notice something. Everything that made Totie Fields a star, her humor, her confidence, her whole public identity was tied to her body. She joked about her weight, because it disarmed the room before anyone else could use it against her. For years, it worked. The audience adored her for it. But that same body, the one she had turned into her greatest comedic weapon, was carrying a quiet illness that no joke could touch. She had diabetes, and in the middle of the 1970s, that illness would stop being something she could laugh about and start taking pieces of her away one by one. Diabetes is a patient disease. It works slowly in the background behind the scenes of an otherwise busy life. For Totie Fields, the busiest years of her career were also the years it tightened its grip. She kept the worst of it private. On stage, she was the same as ever, bright, fast, in command. Off stage, the disease was damaging her circulation, the slow erosion that diabetes so often brings. By early 1976, a blood clot had formed in her leg. What should have been a manageable problem was about to become the turning point of her entire life, the moment the laughter and the illness could no longer be kept apart. In March of 1976, she underwent surgery to remove the clot. The operation failed. Instead of recovering, she developed phlebitis, a painful and dangerous inflammation of the veins. Her condition grew worse, not better. For a woman whose living depended on standing in front of a crowd night after night, what was happening to her leg was not just frightening, it threatened everything she was. The doctors ran out of options to save it, and so the decision was made that would change the rest of her short life. The leg that had carried her onto 1,000 stages could not be saved. On April 22, 1976, surgeons amputated Totie Fields' left leg above the knee. She was 45 years old. Think about what that meant for her. A performer who had spent her life moving through a room working an audience on her feet would never walk onto a stage the same way again. Most entertainers would have disappeared after that. Many would never have been seen in public again. The pain, the adjustment, the loss of the body she had known her whole life, it would have been reason enough to step away forever. From that day on, she would move with a scooter, and in time, a prosthetic leg. The world assumed her career was over. In the aftermath, Fields filed a lawsuit seeking $2 million from the hospital and the doctors who had first treated her. Whatever the courts would decide, the damage to her body was permanent. And there is a strange, painful detail in the timeline. Her very last television appearance before the surgery had been a rare, serious, dramatic role, not a comedy at all, on the medical drama Medical Center broadcast that February. In it, she played a hospital worker dealing with a failing heart. Within weeks, real hospitals and real surgeries would become the center of her own life. The woman who had pretended to be a patient was about to become one for real for the rest of her days. And then she did something almost no one expected. She came back. In November of 1976, just 7 months after losing her leg, Totie Fields made her first appearance on television again, and the show she chose to return to was Hollywood Squares. She rolled into the studio, took her place among the stars, and was welcomed by the host Peter Marshall and by Paul Lynde, the show's beloved center square. She told the audience she had lost 119 pounds and that she felt wonderful. She turned the hardest thing that had ever happened to her into a punchline before anyone could pity her. The crowd did not see a sick woman. They saw Totie. That was exactly what she wanted. This became the pattern of her final years. Rather than hide the amputation, she folded it into her act. In June of 1977, a thinner Totie Fields starred in a television special called Standing Room Only. She opened it seated in a wheelchair, and she delivered a line she said she had waited her whole life to use, that she finally weighed less than Elizabeth Taylor. Then, as the audience cheered, she rose to stand. It was comedy, and it was courage, and it was almost impossible to tell where one ended and the other began. She was showing the world that she was still standing in every sense. But the truth behind the bravery was darker than the audience knew, because the suffering did not stop. While she was still recovering from the amputation, Totie Fields suffered 2 heart attacks. Then, in October of 1977, came another blow. She was diagnosed with breast cancer and underwent a mastectomy, the removal of her right breast, along with surgery on her eye. In the space of less than 2 years, this one woman had endured a failed operation, the loss of a leg, 2 heart attacks, cancer, a mastectomy, and more. Any one of those things could break a person. She carried all of them. And through nearly all of it, she kept performing, kept smiling, kept walking back out under the lights, as if her body were not falling apart beneath her. Her humor changed in those years. A friend, the actor Van Johnson, once remarked that when Totie lost the weight, she lost some of the old comedy with her. The jokes that had defined her were tied to the body that was now gone. And yet the industry saw clearly what she was doing and what it cost her. In 1978, the last full year of her life, her peers voted her Entertainer of the Year and Female Comedy Star of the Year. After everything that had been taken from her, she was being honored, not in spite of her struggle, but because of the grace with which she carried it. She had refused to let the audience watch her suffer. They rewarded her for it. By the summer of 1978, Totie Fields was booked for a 2-week run at the Sahara in Las Vegas, back where she belonged, in front of a live crowd. She never made it to opening night. On August 2nd, 1978, on the eve of the engagement, she was struck by a blood clot that traveled to her lungs, a pulmonary embolism, the same kind of clotting trouble that had haunted her for years. She was rushed to the hospital. There was nothing the doctors could do. Totie Fields died that day. She was 48 years old. The woman who had made a nation laugh through the worst that a body can endure was gone quietly just before she was due to take the stage one more time. She was cremated, and at first her remains stayed in Las Vegas, the city of her last booking. Her husband George outlived her by many years. When he died in 1995, the two of them were finally laid to rest together side by side in a cemetery in Los Angeles. Their marriage had lasted from 1950 until the day she died, nearly 3 decades through fame and illness and everything in between. The man who had shared a game show couch with her, who had stood beside her through every surgery, waited the rest of his own life to be reunited with her. It is one of the few parts of her story that is gentle. So why does any of this matter? Now, decades later, because of what Totie Fields chose to do with the time she had, she could have stepped out of the light. No one would have blamed her. Instead, knowing how sick she was, she kept getting dressed, kept getting onto that scooter, kept rolling out in front of strangers to give them something she herself was running out of joy. She hit her final battle not out of shame, but out of a kind of generosity. She did not want her audience to carry her pain. She wanted them to keep laughing. That is not weakness disguised as strength. That is strength choosing every single night to look like ease. The audiences who watched her in those squares, who saw a heavy, happy woman cracking jokes between the bigger stars, had no idea they were watching one of the bravest performances in television. They thought she was simply funny. She was so much more than that. She was a woman fighting a war she refused to let anyone see. Smiling through pain most of us will never know, opening the door a little wider for every woman in comedy who came after her. Totie Fields was 48 when she died far too soon. But she left on her own terms, laughing with her dignity completely intact. And that, in the end, is how she should be remembered, not for the battle she lost, but for the grace with which she fought it.